And thanks for joining us for DC News Now. For Mark Hall, Annalisa Gale has the evening off. Well, the wintry mix is over, at least for now. And so comes the cleanup and the fun. People across the DMV digging out of the snow today, and you're looking at scenes in Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Let's take a live look outside over upper northwest D.C. The snow is no longer falling, but it's still a DMV first warn day. Let's check in with meteorologist Damon Madsen for a look at the forecast. Damon, we talked a short time ago. Things are quiet right now, but that second blast of wintry yuckiness is coming in.
Exactly, Mark, and that's why we still have this DMV first warn in effect, because after the snow now, we're getting this next wave of precipitation that's going to make things difficult this evening and tonight. But real quick, we do want to talk about that snow that fell. It was a healthy amount of snow across the entire DMV, where most of us averaged out between 5 to 8 inches. DC came in at exactly 6.4 inches. You had those higher totals to the south, like near Lake Ridge at 8.5. And then as you went north, Gaithersburg over to Winchester, lower totals, 3 to 5 inches mostly as you went up toward that Pennsylvania-Maryland line. Now, here's what we have shaping up as we go into the night here. No alerts off to the east toward D.C. and I-95, as we're just expecting mainly a cold rainfall. But off to the west, winter weather advisories here in the light purple and an ice storm warning in the dark purple for some of our western counties along I-81 and into the mountains for the threat of freezing rain and sleet leading to ice accumulation. And we're already seeing that next wave of precip rolling on in. It's raining down toward Culpeper, the Fredericksburg area. But if you look out toward the spine of the Blue Ridge, that pink right there is that mixed icy precipitation that is going to move in off to the west. So we'll have that over the next few hours. That precipitation will arrive, become more steady. It is still going to be rough on those roadways, even where it's just raining, because of how soggy and damp things are going to get. You're going to melt some of that snow with rain falling on top of that. We could even see some ponding out there. So please be cautious, take it easy as this precipitation continues into the overnight hours. Now, will we see things finally clear up and improve a bit as we get into the day on Thursday? We'll have that answer in your full forecast coming up here in just a bit.
All right, Damon, thank you. And check out this time lapse from yesterday as snow piled up in Northern Virginia. And this is the scene really throughout the region. Well, this is Seminary Hill section of Alexandria, and the time lapse captured by our DC News Now chief photographer, Matt Sansella. Well, it's been a busy winter, and D.C. is cleaning up yet again after yesterday's snowy blast that hit the city and the surrounding region. We find D.C. News Now's Randy Bass live in Northwest D.C., where people are putting their shovels to the pavement. Randy, a lot of folks have been out there for most of the day.
Yeah, Mark, a busy day and just a busy winter season we have had here in Washington, D.C. so far. This marks our second major snowfall in just the last 6 weeks here in the district, leaving quite a few inches behind with it. Let's see, what are we working with here in upper northwest? Almost 5 inches left behind. Some of those snow totals are starting to shrink as rain starts to fall here, but still leaving a big mess behind for neighbors and crews to clean up today. Firing up the snow blowers and grabbing the shovels. Gary Thomas and a few others got to work clearing snow this morning in Glover Park.
Temperatures above freezing, so the snow's pretty easy to get up, so it's not much of a battle, you know, like the last snowstorm.
DC homeowners are responsible for clearing their sidewalks after snow falls.
It's also tough as a working mom and trying to juggle all the obligations of the morning.
And Julia Macedo is new to the neighborhood. She's grateful Thomas stopped by and offered to help.
But this was really nice that there were guys in the neighborhood who it could pay a few bucks to have clear the sidewalk so I can be a good neighbor and still get what I need to have done inside the house.
And along the National Mall, Carlos Ferrar with the National Park Service got an early start working to clear the snow around the Jefferson Memorial.
3 o'clock this morning.
But he doesn't seem to mind moving that snow off the slippery marble, now going on 36 years with the NPS.
Look at it. I mean, I was born and raised in this city, so to be able to actually take care of the monuments where I was born and raised is actually a blessing.
And there is another wintry mix already moving into the region, starting to see some very light showers fall here in upper northwest D.C. Keep in mind, though, D.C.'s snow emergency plan remains in effect into this evening. Make sure you're not parking your cars along those major snow emergency routes. You could risk a big ticket and getting towed. In Washington, D.C., I'm Randy Bass, D.C. News Now.
All right, Randy, thank you. With the snow and ice causing significant problems on our roads in Virginia, state troopers have responded to at least 910 crashes statewide since yesterday. On the Maryland side, state police have responded to at least 235 crashes, 765 calls for service. And a reminder, homeowners and business owners, you may be responsible for clearing sidewalks, alleys, and entryways in D.C. You can face a fine if snow is not cleared within 8 hours of daylight after a snowstorm ends. In Arlington, Virginia, property owners are required to clear sidewalks by 11 a.m. or face a fine. You can look up the rules for your jurisdiction by going to dcnewsnow.com, then look up snow ordinance in the search bar. DC News Now is your local election headquarters. The field of candidates is shrinking in the race for Prince George's County Executive. Current County Chair Jolene Ivey is suspending her campaign. She confirmed the news on Facebook without stating the reason why. There are at least 11 other candidates in the race. Whoever wins will replace Maryland Senator Angela Alsobrooks. A primary election scheduled for March 4th, with the general election to follow June 3rd. In the district, Mayor Muriel Bowser is rolling out a slew of new policies to preserve affordable housing as landlords raise concerns about lack of rent payments. DC News Now's Marielle Carbone is live from the Wilson Building with more. Marielle.
Yeah, Mark, the mayor today making her announcement surrounded by developers and landlords, many of which are saying if those rent payments don't start coming in, they're not going to be able to stay in operation. The new policies, some of them aiming to address that issue. In the district, officials say there is a growing problem, unpaid rent.
What is really unique here in the district is that our rent collections are at an all-time low.
Janine Lind is the president of Enterprise Community Development, a nonprofit developer of affordable housing. She says last year the company had over $7 million in outstanding tenant rent payments in D.C. Citywide, the total number is expected to be $147 million in 2025.
COVID affected all of us across the country, but the impacts continue to be felt very deeply here.
It's an issue that D.C.'s mayor says has a rippling effect on the housing system.
Because of the people who aren't paying rent, we see inability for property owners to invest in those properties, provide security, and long-term maintain ownership and affordability.
To help, the mayor's office is rolling out the Rental Act, a comprehensive plan to protect and strengthen housing. The legislation, in part, restores the Department of Housing and Community Development's authority to acquire and reposition vacant properties, allows an expedited process to evict someone who commits a violent crime, and speeds up the current eviction process, which can take up to 2 years in D.C.
So we just have an exceptionally long timeline, and so we're just looking to get back to sort of a market norm.
And the district today also announcing about $144 million in funds to help about 70 affordable housing projects with needs from mortgage to repairs in some of those buildings. Mark, I did reach out to several tenant advocacy groups to see what their take is on this new legislation. I'm still waiting to hear back from some of them. Reporting live from the Wilson Building, I'm Marielle Carbone, DC News Now.
Marielle, thank you. We continue to monitor the boil water advisory for parts of southern Prince George's County. Customers impacted can pick up water in several neighborhoods after Tuesday's water main break. DC News Now's Tiger Munn has more on the response from WSSC.
Georges County continues their water boil advisory Wednesday after a water pipe burst Tuesday morning. The burst happened just outside the Beltway's outer loop on Maryland 214 and impacted thousands of customers. And the WSSC say that they are doing all that they can.
When these things happen, There are protocols in place. We work carefully with the Maryland Department of the Environment to ensure we're following their guidelines for testing the water and then lifting the boil water advisory. And they don't happen all the time, but when they do happen, we know how to respond and we're ready to respond.
In the meantime, the WSSC and Prince George's County set up 3 water distribution centers for those affected from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Forestville, Clinton, and Fort Washington.
And so we're out here giving out water to our residents because as of right now, it is not good for any resident to consume the water. This is our 3rd site. We set it up today because what we didn't want is for our residents who live in this impact area for them to have to travel, given the inclement weather, to Fort Washington or to Clinton.
And customers are more than happy for this alternative.
I had to boil water for about 4 hours yesterday just to get water for wash dishes, wash my meat off so I can cook, have stuff for my grandchildren, everything. Please, because I don't want to boil no more water tonight.
The WSSC will be testing and improving the water before lifting the advisory. Reporting in Prince George's County, I'm Tiger Munn, DC News Now.
All right, Tiger, thank you. And on your screen right now, listed on your screen, are those 3 water distribution sites. They are the Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, Costco Park on Thrift Road in Clinton, and the Marlowe Furniture in Forestville. Again, these sites are open until 5 p.m. Developing right now, OPM, or the Office of Personnel Management, is easing plans to target federal workers who are still in a probationary period. Our media partners at The Hill say OPM is reportedly encouraging government agencies to remove low performers, but say agencies do not have to fire them. Now, the direction comes after OPM asked agencies to turn over lists of employees hired within the last year or 2. It's all part of the Trump administration's plan to shrink the federal government. Meanwhile, a new court filing from the Department of Education is putting DOGE on pause. The filing aims to keep the Department of Government Efficiency from obtaining, seeing, or using data on federal student aid until this coming Monday. It stems from a lawsuit which claims DOGE violated laws related to the student privacy through infiltrating the department's data. And Democratic lawmakers are once again demanding answers from the FAA after the deadly plane crash near DCA. Lawmakers from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland wrote a letter stressing the importance of existing protocols to prevent other crashes from happening. They also expressed concerns about the involvement of DOGE, led by Elon Musk. And the letter says, in part, that we are extremely concerned that an ad hoc team of individuals is lacking any expertise, exposure, certifications, or knowledge of aviation operations being invited or inserting themselves to make rapid changes to our nation's air traffic systems. You can read the full letter on our website, dcnewsnow.com.